Hey, want to respond to Tom for his video response. We're talking about the myth of Asperger's, even maybe the myth of autism. And I know Tom, I don't know if that's your real name, I'll call you Tom for now. You were, I guess, having the feeling that we're throwing around this idea of myth of Asperger's. I have not been diagnosed with Asperger's, but I can really sort of identify with it, I guess. Like, I've talked to a lot of different people that have it, and I just feel like I have the same problems that they describe, maybe to more or less degree. But so when people start saying the myth of Asperger's, I understand that for you it's like, well, what the heck? Like, this is reality, dude. Like, this is such a thing that I live with every day. These differences that I feel. Everyone's acting a certain way, but I'm acting differently, or everyone seems to be reading these things from each other, but I'm not reading that. And so I understand that. If that's your feeling, is that if your feeling is that it's not a myth, right? Because it's so real and it's so pervasive in your life, and you have to deal with it. I just want to say, yeah, it's very real. All these things that are happening, which is that some people are socializing in a certain way for whatever reason, right? Some people are aware of certain things when they talk to one another, and then some people have a different way of being, I guess. They either don't perceive the same things when they talk to these people, or else they have just a different response. Just, I don't really care if you're doing this certain thing with your lips, or I don't really care if you're silently indicating that I should leave the room. The natural thing for me to do is just ignore that, or just talk louder, or whatever. It's different for every person, but that concept that someone who is acting like they have Asperger's syndrome, or someone who seems like they have Asperger's syndrome, you don't really know whether that person is honestly seeing these things that they don't seem to be picking up on and then ignoring them, or just not responding the way you want, or the way that is normal, or whether they just don't see these things, they just perceive things, and really it's a little bit illusory that those are even two different things. The perceiving and the doing is all part of this continuum. It's constantly happening. I didn't consciously decide that I want to start moving my arms this way. It's just that I'm an animal. I'm this human being, and there's a flow of constantly perceiving and constantly doing in response. Like a state machine that's always doing actions and taking in data at the same time. So there's no real feeling of, well, are you perceiving things the same but acting different, or or are you actually perceiving things different? It's just like, it's not little discrete stages quite as much as it's a whole flow. And yes, you flow differently. If you have Asperger's, that means you flow differently. And we don't know, when we say you flow differently, we don't know whether that's a good or a bad thing, or whether it should be diagnosed or treated or even noticed. We just don't know any of that. We just know that some people flow a little bit differently, all kinds of differently. Everyone flows differently. And so, here's a funny idea. This is a way I've been thinking about autism and Asperger's that's completely a different definition, but it resonates with me for some reason. And the reason I thought of this is I have a friend who's a very brainy person, and a very hard worker, like thinks really hard and works really hard. And I was looking at him and I was thinking, man, the way you're working really hard and forcing yourself to think these things, like it's kind of stubborn. Like I'm more like meditative. I try not to force myself to think too much. And so I was trying to tell him about this, like, oh, you're having a difficult time, and all you would need to do is not force yourself so much. And it was seeming stubborn that he was forcing himself. And then when I looked at him, it was seeming autistic that he was doing that. Like, don't you see, can't you connect the dots? But no, you can't connect the dots. You seem autistic. If that makes sense to you. Like, I just wanted you to know that you could connect this and it would make your life better, but you just won't or can't, and that's what autism seems to be to me, is whenever someone's coming up to you and saying, like, I know I have this ready-made connection for you to make. If you would just not pick your nose, or if you would just be nicer to the people around you, or if you would just listen to what they say, just do these simple things and you will have a better social life. You will have all these great things come to you. This is what your parents might do sometimes. They will say to you these things. They'll say, if you would just act this way, or if you would just listen to this, just be a little cognizant, then your life would be better. But no, you aren't doing that. You aren't making those connections that to me seem very simple, and you aren't reaping the benefits, and therefore, like, I'll take you to a doctor and say, look, here's this deviation from what is optimal, and then the doctor starts diagnosing Asperger's and autism. Right? And I need to learn how to look right into this camera because I'm looking down at myself. The doctor now is prescribing autism and Asperger's because some people seem so different from us. And when we come to them saying, here's a great connection, if we could get this connection into your brain, you would reap this reward that I've reaped and other people have reaped. But no, you don't do it. Like, you're the Rain Man or whatever. Even though you can memorize the text of thousands of books, you can't, handle money. If you could simply do that, this would be good for you, but you can't get this connection. And therefore, we say, you're autistic. You are so different from us and you're missing these important connections, so you're autistic. And so it was funny, my friend that I was talking about, and I started seeing, thinking that he was autistic because he wasn't getting this connection. He was thinking that I was autistic, he told me. It was really funny. He said, well, the way that you are around girls, especially I'll eat out at a restaurant and I'll flirt with the waitress in a certain way, and it's I don't care, if she doesn't like that, or if she gets weirded out by that, it doesn't really matter, but if she really connects with it a lot, then that's really beautiful. So it makes sense for me to just act the way I want to act. That's how I feel. But to him, this friend, he was saying, wow, the way that you're just doing this stuff that a lot of people aren't connecting with, it seems autistic to me. You do not understand that if you would just act a little more normal, then people wouldn't think you're weird, and then, but no, you don't get that, so you seem autistic to me. So that was, my friend thinks that I'm autistic.